Let's go Broncos! Behind the scenes in Denver, the front office is making moves, planning bold strategies, and weighing crucial decisions that could completely reshape the roster for 2026. And yes, some of these choices might surprise you. There are rumors of trades, rising stars, draft surprises, and a potential superstar at tight end that the Broncos might be willing to trade up for. But is it worth the risk? Before we get into the details, I need to ask you a small favor. If you're a diehard Broncos fan, and I mean diehard, the kind who bleeds orange and blue, click the like button right now. Let's show the world what Broncos fans are made of. And if you've been rooting for this team through thick and thin for over 20 years, leave a comment saying, "Go Broncos! My heart bleeds orange and blue." I want to see who's truly part of this legacy. Alright, let's go, because what I'm hearing now could set the tone for an explosive comeback season. The Denver Broncos have some critical decisions ahead of them, especially when it comes to bolstering the wide receiver room. One hot name floating around is George Pickens. If Denver somehow pulls the trigger on bringing him in, it completely reshapes the WR hierarchy. Pickens immediately slots in as WR1, bumping Courtland Sutton to the WR2 spot. But it doesn't stop there. The third wide receiver role could see a tight competition between Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant. Right now, Franklin likely starts the season in that role, but Bryant's raw talent could push him up the depth chart fast. And imagine having Marvin Mims Jr. as your fifth receiver. That's depth most teams can only dream of. It's a potentially stacked unit that could cause nightmares for defenses if things come together the right way. But adding a big-name WR means letting go of others. When asked which player would be the most devastating loss in free agency, Jaquan McMillian stood out. He's become a key contributor, and losing him could sting. On the other hand, guys like Justin Strnad, Adam Troutman, and PJ Locke are seen as more expendable. That's not to say they aren't valuable, but when you're trying to create cap space and reload the roster, hard decisions have to be made. Speaking of Troutman, if he walks, who replaces him? There's some buzz around Brendan Doyle from Stanford, but there's not enough tape or evaluation out there yet to fully buy into him as the heir apparent. What's clear, though, is that if Denver goes the draft route, they should target a tight end who can catch passes more than one who's purely a blocker. That brings us to a name that fans won't stop asking about, Kenyon Sadiq. Let me make this crystal clear. Kenyon Sadiq is the best tight end in this draft class, and it's not even close. Standing at 6 feet 3 inches, 245 pounds, the Oregon product is a pure mismatch nightmare. He thrives against zone coverage, owns the middle of the field, and gives you all-pro upside. He's a physical freak, with a breakout 2025 season of 51 catches, 560 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Sure, he had 6 drops and inconsistent blocking technique, but you can coach that. What you can't teach is that raw athleticism and savvy route running. He reminds me a lot of Sam Laporta, and if you remember Laporta's insane rookie year, you know what kind of ceiling Sadiq brings. The issue? You'll have to move up to get him. He's not going to be there at pick 30. That's guaranteed. Now, while fans might be dreaming about Sadiq in orange and blue, the reality is the Broncos may have to pivot. If they're going to move up in the draft, someone like Miles Limon might be a better value pick depending on positional needs. But this brings up the larger issue of what the Broncos' biggest needs actually are heading into free agency. On offense, it's a toss-up between wide receiver and running back. Denver has dealt with a painful number of drops, which leans the scale toward needing that WR1 playmaker. But don't sleep on the need for a bruising, reliable running back either. That's where names like Breece Hall come in. He's versatile and can run inside or outside. But if Denver needs a pure between-the-tackles runner, then Rachaad White is an intriguing option. In 2025, he ranked in the 98th percentile for gap zone running, an A-gap and B-gap beast who could grind out tough yards consistently. If Hall doesn't happen, White is the kind of under-the-radar signing that could pay dividends. Defensively, linebacker is the glaring hole. With both Alex Singleton and Justin Strnad potentially gone, Denver's starters at this moment would be Dre Law and Lavelle Bailey. That's just not enough experience or leadership for a defense that needs to anchor the middle of the field. Whether it's through free agency or the draft, that interior linebacker role must be addressed immediately. And while we're on the topic of the draft, fans are throwing out some bold and interesting picks. Names like Denzel Boston, C.J. Allen, Anthony Hill Jr., and Jacob Rodriguez. Most of these guys are solid choices. Hill Jr. and Allen in particular stand out as high-ceiling prospects. Rodriguez? There's some skepticism there. Texas Tech defenders haven't exactly lit up the league, and there's concern he may follow that trend. Still, it's good to see fans dialing in on this position group, because Denver absolutely needs help there. Oh, and before we wrap this part up, there was a lot of chatter about Pat Bryant. What role does he play in the offense next year? He's your chain mover. Maybe not your deep threat, maybe not your red zone hammer, but he's consistent and effective. Projected stat line? Somewhere around 50 catches, 620 yards, and 3 to 4 touchdowns. For a WR4, that's more than solid. That's depth, and that's what contenders have, options. Because that's the debate heating up among Broncos insiders right now. Trading up means you're likely giving away valuable draft capital, potentially a future second rounder or even more, to move into the range where Sadiq will be taken. Based on everything we've seen from his trajectory, from 5 receptions in 2023 to a breakout 51-catch campaign in 2025, the upside is enormous. He's a rare athlete at the tight end position and would immediately elevate the passing attack. But is it worth the price? That decision depends heavily on how confident the front office feels about their depth in other key areas, especially linebacker and the offensive line. Because if you trade up and whiff, it's a gamble that sets back the rebuild. But if you hit, Sadiq could become the next franchise tight end. It's that kind of boom or bust scenario. Now, there's also talk about other receiver trade targets. Garrett Wilson? Off the table, the Jets aren't letting him go. Jalen Waddle? There was contact made at the trade deadline, but the Dolphins reportedly wanted more than a first-round pick. That's a steep price, and frankly, Waddle might not be worth more than one. As for A.J. Brown, despite his undeniable talent, the locker room chemistry concern makes him a questionable fit. The Broncos seem to be focusing on building a core of players who bring not just talent, but stability and cohesion. One name that's emerged with some off-field concerns is Jordan Addison. He's flashed talent, but multiple speeding incidents have raised red flags. And while some fans suggest he could be a low-cost, high-upside target, the Broncos might be wary of adding another WR with baggage. The team seems determined to avoid distractions as they chase playoff redemption. And that brings us back to the players already on the roster, specifically the quarterback position. Some fans have called for a better backup, but the consensus inside the building is that Jarrett Stidham is a solid QB2. His performance against the Patriots proved he's a backup, not a long-term starter, but as a second option behind a true QB1, he's reliable. Back in the preseason, some were even calling for Stidham to start over Bo Nix. That take aged poorly, but it highlights how polarizing the position can be when you're not getting elite-level consistency. We also need to talk about how this team plans to fill its interior linebacker needs. With Singleton and Stranad potentially gone, the urgency is sky-high. Denver could target Denzel Boston or Anthony Hill Jr. in the draft. Both bring high-level traits. Hill, in particular, has shown flashes of elite instincts and physicality. But what about someone like C.J. Allen? Another promising name, but again, the concern is whether these rookies will be ready to step into starting roles right away, because as it stands, it's Dre Law and Lavelle Bailey on the depth chart. That's dangerously thin. Let's not forget the tight end discussion isn't just about Sadiq. Names like Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland have also drawn some buzz, and either could be in play if the Broncos stay put at pick 30. They're not quite at Sadiq's level, but they're solid fallback options who could still provide value. However, if you're going to move up, fans have suggested Miles Limon as an alternative target, potentially a better positional value depending on where the run on tight end starts. It all depends on how the board falls on draft night. Now, let's turn back to a name from earlier, Pat Bryant. We mentioned earlier that he might not have the flashiest skill set, but his role can't be overstated. He's the guy you trust on 3rd and 7. The chain mover. The guy who runs crisp routes and finds soft spots in the zone. He won't lead the team in touchdowns, but if he ends the year with 50 catches, 600-plus yards, and a handful of scores, that's outstanding production from your WR4. And with all the attention on Sutton, Pickens, if acquired, and the possible breakout of Troy Franklin, Bryant could be the X-factor that keeps drives alive. And there's still the wild card of Marvin Mims Jr. His role is unclear, but imagine having his explosiveness as a WR5. That's a luxury, and it shows just how dramatically the WR room could improve with just one big addition.